Juan.
Very much, Madam Speaker, for recognizing me to join this debate on the supplemental appropriation for the financial year 2024. And Madam Speaker, I rise in order to respond to the Attorney General with respect to some of the matters that he would have placed on the record. And I think, Madam Speaker, the Attorney General would have contextualized his entire presentation on historical information and data. And really, what came out of the Standing Finance Committee, what we're debating here today, is a request, a very simple request was made, reasonable, legitimate request was made to the Attorney General to simply provide the names of the attorneys to whom the monies will be paid. There currently, in fiscal 2024, was an original appropriation of $45 million to the Attorney General's Office for fees, which is legal fees. And then you come in the mid-year review and ask for an additional $120 million, which now brings you up to a total of $165 million. And when we asked the Attorney General, well, can you disclose the names of these lawyers? The answer that we first got was no. It was a flat-out, blatant no. Then the position changed when I challenged the Attorney General.
I asked my friend to give way.
No, Attorney General, you had your time. I would like to contribute to my debate. So, Madam Speaker, when I challenged the Attorney General and reminded him of a previous position that he will only disclose names of attorneys who consented, then he reconciled from that position and the goalpost shifted. Then he said he will request the Attorney General, the attorneys, to give consent for the fees that would have been paid to them. Today, the Attorney General now referenced some document delivered to the Parliament on the 6th of June, of which I don't believe any of us on the side have had sight of. We did not see that document with the names of the attorneys and the fees being paid to them for the fiscal year. I didn't receive it. I don't know if any of my colleagues on this side received it. And what we're being told, Madam Speaker, is only the names of persons who consented it amounted to $10 million. $10 million. And the persons who didn't consent amounts to $51 million worth of fees. And today, Trinidad and Tobago does not know who this $51 million is paid to. This is not the money from Balize House. This is not the PNM money. This is the taxpayers of Trinidad and Tobago money. So, Madam Speaker, the government has a duty of disclosure, transparency, and accountability to the people of Trinidad and Tobago to let them know where the money has gone and who is being paid with this enormous allocation of $165 million. We need to know that. And why you did not? Why are you hiring attorneys who don't want to disclose the fees that are being paid to them? Why is that not a precondition in order to get a state brief? Why? Because it is a settled practice in this place for the fees to be disclosed and the attorneys who collected the fees. And Madam Speaker, I want to establish the settled practice this afternoon, but I am being disturbed by the government. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I want to take you back to the 10th Parliament. Question number 41, fees for the 1990 Commission of Inquiry, answered on the 28th of May 2013. Senator Beckles asked that question. Question 42, fees for CLECO HU Commission of Inquiry, May 28, 2013. Senator Beckles asked that question and it was answered. Question 46, fees paid to Privy Council attorneys, 14th of May. Senator Hines, that question was answered by the partnership government. Fees paid to the A-team, question 47, May 14th. Senator Hines asked that question, it was answered. Question 48, fees paid to 5-member legal team, March 16, 2012. That question was answered by MP Marlene MacDonald. Question number 3, details of hiring private legal services. MP Keith Rowley asked that question, the member for Diego Martin West, answered on the 9th of November 2011. Fees paid out of court settlements involving the state, again the member for Diego Martin West then, answered on the 9th of November 2011. Question 5 on investigations conducted, November 9th, 2011 question answered, and it was asked by the member for Diego Martin West. So imagine the UNC government disclosed the legal fees and the PNM opposition was asking. So they were asking when they were in opposition for us to tell us how many attorneys were paid and how much they were paying, and when they end up in government, they say, no, we can't give you that information. That is what you call hypocrisy, Madam Speaker. That is hypocrisy. And in fact, Madam Speaker, the then Attorney General of this PNM government, the member for San Fernando West, did in fact disclose to this country the legal fees paid between the period 2010 to 2015, 2015 to 2023. I have a Trinidad Express article. AG releases lawyer's fee, and I want to quote it. Article dated the 3rd of July 2021. Settled practice. The multi-million-dollar fees paid out to attorneys and firms under the PNM government are no longer secret, having been revealed by Attorney General Faris Al-Rawi. Last month, the AG was adamant that he would not disclose the fees of the attorneys who do work for the state. The issue was raised during the Parliament's Standing Finance Committee meeting at the Parliament sitting last Friday at the House, Red House, Port of Spain. The AG said he was authorized by whom? By the Cabinet to disclose the fees and lay the schedule of payments in the Parliament. The AG provided the fees paid for the past 11 years for both the Superior Administration, 2010-2015, amounting to $494.8 million, and the Diego Martin West-led government, 2015 to June 2021, $410.5 million. So, two former Attorney Generals outlined fees paid to attorneys, nothing about consent, nothing. The Cabinet of the PNM government, when San Fernando West was the Attorney General, authorized the disclosure of the fees paid to these attorneys without consent, Madam Speaker, and now we have this new Attorney General in the form of Senator Armour is telling this country, no, we can't tell you who is being paid. Madam Speaker, that is unacceptable. Unacceptable. And we are not going to take that on the side, Madam Speaker, because if we have to invoke the provisions of the law through the Freedom of Information Act, we will take them all the way to the Privy Council, and we make not a single apology for it, because we need to understand where $165 million of taxpayers' money is going. We need to know that. And if you want to disclose the names of the persons who get paid and how much they're being paid, well, if you want, why don't you disclose the names of the persons who are not consenting? Tell us who they are. You don't want to tell us how much they earn and how much they collected? Well, then at least tell us who are the ones that are not consenting to their names being published. Tell us that. But, Madam Speaker, this is the secrecy that this government is practicing with taxpayers' money. This is not your money. This is the money of the people of Trinidad and Tobago. This is their money. You cannot operate like it is your money in your bank account. You are owing a fiduciary duty to the taxpayers of this country to spend monies in a proper, legitimate, legal manner. Now, Madam Speaker, this Attorney General, the current Attorney General, had the two highest spends in the history of Trinidad and Tobago on legal fees. Last year, it was $190 million, and this year it is now $165 million in any single year. That is the highest spend in the history of this country with respect to legal fees in the office of the Attorney General. That is what it is, Madam Speaker. That is what it is. Then I heard the Attorney General is complaining about $14 million being spent on COVID litigation. $14 million being spent on COVID litigation. But what the Attorney General omitted to tell us is the legal fees that were laid in this Parliament and published. He collected $10.7 million in legal fees from the Office of the Attorney General. That is what he didn't tell us. And then telling us what? $14 million could have bought additional materials and supplies for the hospitals for COVID. Why he didn't donate some of that $10.7 million to the COVID patients? Why he didn't do that? And that is just from the Office of the Attorney General. When we did FOIs with other state enterprises, the Attorney General when he was in private practice, would have collected $17.5 million worth of legal fees. $17.5 million. And today, you don't want to tell us?
Remember, this is not about the Attorney General. You were raising this in the context of what is before the Standing Finance Committee and the $165 million additional dollars. So please, watch where you're going with that.
Madam Speaker, the simple point here, Madam Speaker, is if you want to collect taxpayers' money, be ready to be accountable and transparent to the taxpayers. That's the point. That's the point I wish to raise, Madam Speaker. And then the Attorney General complains about something called frivolous litigation. Frivolous litigation, and then he targets what? He targets UNC activists involved in frivolous litigation. Madam Speaker, do you know there's a Privy Council decision in this country? Had it not been for that matter going all the way up to the Privy Council, we may not have had a local government election. How could you call that frivolous litigation when this government was trying to prevent the persons from exercising their right to vote, Madam Speaker? That matter had to reach all the way up to the Privy Council. So how could you call that frivolous litigation? There's another matter, Madam Speaker. Again, Ravi Balgobin Maraj filed a Freedom of Information application. The government did not want to disclose through Petritrin. This was in respect to the withdrawal of the Malcolm Jones matter, Madam Speaker. That matter also went all the way up to the Privy Council, and the Privy Council had to order disclosure of those documents in the Malcolm Jones matter. Madam Speaker, this could not be frivolous litigation that is taking place in this country. When citizens are going to court, trying to beg the court and pray to the court for reliefs, in order for the government to respect their constitutional rights because they believe that they were unlawfully treated or unjustly treated or their rights have been breached by the government, they have a right to an audience before the court. This government ought not to be complaining about that. That is a dangerous message that they're sending to this country, Madam Speaker, that they must be able to do what they want and persons can't take them to court. No, Madam Speaker. We have a constitutional right in order to approach the court if you believe your constitutional rights have been infringed. Simple as that. And no other person other than the Attorney General is coming to tell this country about frivolous litigation. Madam Speaker, we reject that submission by this Attorney General. We reject that submission by this Attorney General. So, Madam Speaker, when you look at this entire matter in the round with respect to what is taking place, we are seeing several $1 million going to be appropriated to persons we don't know who will be the beneficiaries of those funds. We, in fact, don't know the work that they would have done. We don't know the matters that they would have attended. We don't know any details, Madam Speaker, only to hear the Attorney General come to this Parliament and say, well, we paid this person, but the person told us, we don't want you to tell the country that we got paid. That we got paid. And there's a legal opinion. The last time the Attorney General circulated to this Parliament, I have a copy of what he quoted in the letter, Madam Speaker, the Honourable Attorney General. And this was in response to the SFC for this particular that we had earlier, late last year, Madam Speaker, which revolves around the $45 million original allocation that is before us. And the Attorney General indicated that he got a legal opinion, Madam Speaker, from a counsel unknown because it didn't quote who the counsel is. And the counsel would have advised the Attorney General, well, listen, you could only disclose the fees if the persons have, in fact, agreed to these fees being disclosed, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, you know we don't even know who gave that opinion and how much they were paid to give him that opinion, Madam Speaker. And that is the secrecy that surrounds this. If the Attorney General, Madam Speaker, believes that that is right, I crave the indulgence of this House for the Attorney General to make that legal opinion public. Make it public. Let us see who gave that opinion to advise the government, don't disclose legal fees, because it was a settled practice, as I said before, Madam Speaker, from the Attorney General Ramlogan, Attorney General Al-Rawi, disclose all of the fees. Settled practice. The Parliament record will reflect every single time attorney's name, how much they were paid, and they did not have to consent. Now we are hearing that there must be a qualification for us to get this answer. Madam Speaker, that cannot be right. And if the Attorney General is not prepared to lay all of those fees on the record, Madam Speaker, we will find the Attorney General in a different forum. And if we have to go in that different forum, Madam Speaker, we will have to ask, and we will go to that forum in order to get disclosure of public funds, Madam Speaker, and where they are being spent. So, Madam Speaker, it's not a Monday night forum, all right? So, Madam Speaker, I don't wish to be long this afternoon. This is a very narrow, simple issue with respect to this legal fees, but we believe on the opposition bench, Madam Speaker, that this government owes a duty of candor. They owe a duty of full disclosure to be accountable and transparent to the taxpayers of Trinidad and Tobago. And I thank you very much, Madam Speaker.